everyone. Welcome to Black Men Speak Up. My name is Carrington, and I will be your host for tonight. For those of you who may not know me, I am a talk show host, an author, a mental health advocate, and a certified personal development trainer. I will be your host for tonight, and what Black Men Speak Up is all about. It is a program for Roots Community Services, and Roots has been providing programs and services for people in the region of Peel since 1985. And they help clients lead healthy and productive lives. They help empower and inspire them and help overcome the challenges that they may face and provide solutions. So the program lead for Black Men Speak Up is Shane. He is the clinical therapist. And the awesome thing about Black Men Speak Up is Roots Community Services offers complementary therapy for men who identify as Black. So that being said, this episode of Black Men Speak Up is a special one because what we're going to do today is, as you may or may not know, we've had months and months and panelists of Black men from different parts of the world sharing their stories and their truths, their vulnerabilities, being courageous, coming forth, talking about their mental health, talking about fatherhood, divorce, financial distress, broken relationships, what it's like to be unemployed. We've had guests who've talked about coming from the LGBTQ community and what challenges they have faced, stories from Black men of all walks of life. So what we're going to do on this special episode is we're going to go down memory lane and bring up some of the stories that you may have missed, may have heard, and recap them once again.
We have my guest, Ricky, all the way from Florida. Let's listen to his perspective from a Black man of some of the adversity he's faced.
Ricky from Florida, my sidekick in crime. I'm going to give this one to you. 75% of men surveyed have been cheated on by their girlfriend or caught their wife having an affair. I look at that nod. You're not even.
So here's the, I guess it's a bad thing for me. So I've never had that happen to me, but I have been the other man in a situation. So
She cheated with you. Okay, let's do this. Okay.
Yeah. So, in those scenarios, what usually happened was she had her 80% with that guy, but then there was the 20% that she wasn't getting from him. And instead of talking to him about it, she just decided to go outside of that. Sometimes it was, she felt as if he wasn't paying attention to her anymore because he got so used to the routine. He got used to doing things the same way every day, wasn't paying attention to her, wasn't complimenting her, didn't make her feel young, didn't make her feel valued or beautiful. And a lot of times that's all it takes is some man to show her some type of attention and boom, she's in the arms of somebody else. So that's what it was for me. It did cause me to have a lot of trust issues. That was my karma because I was involved in those scenarios and then I had a hard time trusting women. So when she started being distant, is she looking at another guy? Is she involved with someone else? Is she emotionally attached to someone else? And it may not be physical yet, but eventually, if she's emotionally attached to that guy, she might give him the physical as well. So it started to create trust issues and issues as far as me being able to connect with my women. So that's what I have to say about that.
What I so admire about you all the time since we've met is your level of authenticity. And that's what we need to hear, is that you were on that side. And I love the way you said that karma came back to you. And that's a perfect segue into the next question, where we were going to discuss some of the things where a woman has hurt you deeply. And I'm just going to start right with you. When was a time where a woman has hurt you so deeply and it was hard to get over?
Well, as I stated, I never got cheated on, so that wasn't my biggest hurt. For me, my biggest hurt was when my vulnerability was violated. Um, for me, it's very difficult to be able to open up, especially about things that go on in my life. I'm a public figure a lot of times, so I have to uphold a certain image. So when I'm in my sacred space, I want my woman to be able to support me and be able to listen to me without judgment, without any type of, you know, making me feel as if I'm less of a man. I want her to be able to say, it's okay. We comfort each other. I'm going to comfort her. She's going to comfort me. And when I shared something that was very personal with her, something I was going through, I thought that this was my partner. So I thought that brought us closer together. But then in the heated moment, she brought that back up and she used it against me. That hurt more than anything anyone could have ever said to me or done to me, because I had trusted her with that. And and honestly, it made the relationship hard to come back from. She apologized, but I still don't think she understood to the degree of hurt that she had instilled in me in that moment. I thought that we had created a bond that couldn't be broken. I thought that we had created a safe space where we could share anything. And in 1 second, when she got angry, she broke that. So we tried to get back on track, but it just couldn't happen. There was always a detachment. I couldn't share anymore. And she was wondering why I wasn't sharing my feelings or my emotions or what I was going through anymore. It's because I couldn't trust her anymore. So that resonated with me for years until I ended up going into therapy as well to talk about some of these things and realized that I was carrying the baggage from my past relationships into anything I was going into now. So I I take baby steps with it. I'm always transparent, because to me it's a difference: transparency versus vulnerability. Transparency means that I'm open, but vulnerable means that I'm able to share my weaknesses. So I'm very cautious and I have discernment when I share that part of me with a woman.
That was powerful. The difference of transparency and vulnerability.
Next up, we have my guest, Nelly James. He's a youth, really resilient. He's been through a lot of loss. Let's take a listen to his story.
And now I'm going to bring up another amazing person in my life, Nelly James. And he's also faced some loss and he's also a youth. Nelly, do I have you here with me today?
Yes. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Nelly. We were just listening to Marcus and from the youth perspective and how it feels to have loss. And if you could just share with the viewers, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Youth, yeah, 26.
Yeah.
And youth in this pandemic and being a Black man, you
Mm.
faced loss as well. And for some of you who are tuning in from Toronto, we have people from all over the world have tuned in. But for those of you from Toronto may remember that there was a shooting about a year ago. It was a boy named Jonathan. He was about 16, 17 years old. And there was a shooting in Mississauga where they were recording a video, and he was just a random bystander and he was shot. And that was your cousin, correct, Nelly?
Yes, correct.
And can you just let us know how did that make you feel? I mean, for being a man,
Hmm.
being a Black man,
Hmm.
and losing your family member to murder, how did that feel?
It felt, it was a feeling that was really undescribable. Because I remember on the morning I actually I called you up,
You called me right
and
away.
I was in tears because I couldn't believe what I've just heard. And I remember I felt really angry. I felt like, it's a safe space. I felt like doing things that I shouldn't do.
I know,
You know,
I know.
I was very angry. I was very sad. And all I felt like I could do that day was just cry, talk to my uncle, see how I can comfort him as well. You know, man to man, having conversations, trying to, cool each other down. Because it's hard losing somebody to, especially gun violence. It's hard losing them to gun violence, knowing that it could have been prevented as well.
You're right. And let's go there for a minute, Nelly. I remember the moment when you messaged me. What I really admire about you as a Black male youth is to reach out to your circle. You knew
Yes.
right away, Karen's there for me. My uncle's there for me. What advice would you give someone your age who maybe doesn't want to look weak, doesn't want to reach out to people? And you know what I mean?
Yes. What I'll tell a person who doesn't want to look weak or feel like they're, I would tell them to reach out to somebody, reach out to someone who you really, reach out to a friend. And I'd also say, I remember Shane was on earlier and he said that you could go to him and have a little bit of a chat, and vent. Sometimes all we need to do is just vent, because sometimes it's always this built up aggression inside of us. And then that one thing that happens, it just sets off the icing on the cake, and we just need to just talk. So I'd say to that person who's suffering from significant hurt from whatever might be going on in their lives, sit down and chat with somebody. I guarantee that you won't regret it.
You're so right. And you mentioned something, Nelly, when you said you were angry and there's things that you wanted to do. Do you ever feel like when you use that word angry, that you get stereotyped as now you appear to be an angry Black man?
Black man. Yes.
Right. And so how does that make you feel when you're in that box of the angry Black man?
You know what? It's sad that Black men can't, I feel like we can't be angry, because then we get put in to this little box like, oh, you can't be angry. Now you're an angry Black man. Oh, you can't be sad and shed tears because now you're, we'll call you a B or whatever. You know what I mean? So that, like, it's like, okay, are we supposed to just walk around strong all the time? So I want to tell my brothers that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, but do good things and with that anger, like when I found out that my cousin died too, I just started to write, start to work on something, put it in music, try to find different ways to release your anger. When it gets to that point where you feel like if you want to even do things that you feel like you should not do, and as I said earlier, reach out to somebody, and that always helps as well.
I'm glad we went there because from a West Indian background, sometimes we're brought up in spaces where, they say, don't talk your business, don't tell anybody something, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
We're brought up that way. And I believe I'm a woman, but for Black men, there's that on top of that. You're not supposed to be talking your business, and you're a man. And so you suppress it in, and your family's judging you, and they're telling you, don't tell anybody, right? Yeah. And so we're trying to break those paradigms today. We're trying to break those barriers and break those stigmas that you can speak in a safe place with people you trust. And if someone does break your trust, okay, move on, find someone that does. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. And what I love about you is I trust you so much. So thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being someone that I come to all the time. Thank you for being here.
Likewise, I always love coming to you. Like, I know that you're always there, so I always feel safe sharing my stories and stuff with you as well.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you. We're going to talk. Thank you so much.
We're going to listen to a story from Donovan. Talks about loss and how he was able to navigate that journey. It's a very deep segment, but one that has inspired Black men around the world to know it's okay to ask for help, to be vulnerable, and to show your emotion.
So I'm going to move on to my next panel member, who is Donovan. Donovan, are you here with me?
I'm right here with you.
You're always here with me. You're always here with me. Let's see if I see you. Let's see. There you are. Awesome. Donovan, I'm just so glad that you're here with me today, because the topic that we're talking about is loss from the Black men's perspective. We talked about with Marcus and loss of his grandfather on the video, Nelly, and the loss of his cousin. And I know you've had a loss yourself. And a couple days ago, that was something that was really challenging, correct?
Absolutely. Very challenging.
And if you could just go right into it, and we're going to take our time and we're going to do this together, Donovan. And if you need to take some pauses, it's a safe space. We'll take those pauses and we'll just take it one step at a time. Okay. So, yep.
I'm very nervous.
And you know what? Being nervous is human. And I remember all the talks that we have, it's human. And other Black men that are watching are seeing you be human. And that helps all of us. So that's exactly what we're going to do together. We're going to have a casual, human, person-to-person conversation, and we're going to take our time.
That's great.
So what I want to ask you is, can you let me know 10 years ago on December 26th?
Yes.
Take your time. What happened on that day?
Well, I went to go and see my mother because it was Boxing Day. She didn't have a Christmas dinner. Normally she has nice big Christmas dinner, but this year she did not have that. But before I left, I saw her coughing up blood and always coughing. And I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, don't worry, nothing, my son. I'm okay. Because she's a very Jamaican mom. I'm fine. I'm strong. And then I came back and she was coughing up even more. And I said, Mom, what's wrong? And she says, okay, I'm going to tell you something, my son. And then she said to me, they said I have liver cancer. It went from my breast, now it's to my liver. And I said, what do you mean? I thought you fight that, because she had the breast cancer and it went away. And now she said she had liver cancer. She's coughing up blood. And then she's like, the doctors say I'm not going to survive, but God is good. I'm going to survive. And I broke down. I broke down. I remember going to the basement and I just didn't know what to do. So I remember I took my shavers and I just shaved my hair bald. And I had those S curls back in the day with a nice lineup. And I thought I was Mr. Pretty Boy back then, but I said no. And I was just losing my mind. And I remember I was shaking and crying and I was angry, right? And I just felt like, this is December 26th. This is my mom.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay. I got you.
So to this day, I remember that day, like in detail, and it still breaks my heart. And that's what made me become more of a vulnerable man, like to open up, because after that, I avoided her actually, and I left the house and I went back home and I didn't come back until I didn't come back, I think until the day before she died, or the day when she died. She called me and said, Don, I love you. You're my favorite. And I said, Mom, you're going to be okay, right? But I was lying to myself, right? But I was just like in this trance where I was like, no, Mom, you're going to be okay. She said, I love you, my son. You're my favorite. And then I went to the house, and the moment I walked in, they said, your mom died right on the chair. So that hurt. That hurt a lot. So Christmas is, I know for everyone, Christmas is this amazing season. For me, it's not. For me, it's tough. And that's why I could cry now, because I guess I'm vulnerable right now, because after she died, I had to be vulnerable, right?
And by you sharing for the people that it's tough for, you have made them feel like they're not alone. In your opinion, why do you think it's challenging for some Black men to cry?
Because we're taught not to cry. I mean, when you're a little boy and you're 6 years old and you hear, don't cry, only girls cry. You're a man, you have to man up. That gets, you place that in your mind. That's like a seed planted in your mind, right? And every time you cry, you get called the P word, you get disrespected, you get called soft. So you learn that as a young man, and I learned that as a young man, but my father did cry at times. And I was like, oh, maybe I can cry. But if I cried outside of that, no, you're soft. A lot of young men have to face that, especially young Black men too. We have to be strong. We have to wear that macho man bravado, like, yeah, nothing's wrong, and but really a lot of, like myself, I've been broken inside, because even some of the tears I kept inside, that broke me. I'm still feeling it now, but we need to cry. I mean, we can cry. It doesn't mean you're soft if you cry.
Yeah, you got it. And you have your son, and I know you encourage him to cry as well. It's okay. It's healthy.
I'm going to tell you a story. I remember my son when he was 3 years old, because I learned not to cry. I said, stop crying. Stop crying. I started yelling at him. I have to force my son to cry now, because he has a hard time crying because of those words I planted in his head when he was younger. When he cries, he goes like this in the corner. He can't cry like that. We need to stop that. I needed to stop that, but it happened.
One of my favorite things about you, I have so many, but one of my favorites is whenever we have our conversations, I've always said this to you, you always admit your shortcomings. Karen, that's something I want to work on. Karen, that's something I did wrong. That's what is really inspiring about you, that you say, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, but this is what I did wrong. And this is what I'm currently working on to do better. You're always in a space, Donovan, no matter what you're going through. This is what I need to improve on. And you always take it one step at a time. Even you sharing, I'm seeing that Hedwig, they're saying that they're in a similar situation with their mother in COVID. So everything you're saying in your tears, in your vulnerability, is helping so many people. I also know that we talk about your living with depression and PTSD. Can you share a little bit about that as well?
Well, it's funny. My mother's the one who took me when she was alive, when I was 21, to go and she felt I was depressed because I was in my basement. But the doctor said, yeah, you're depressed. But I didn't care back then. I was like, whatever, I'm not depressed. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to listen to Biggie and I'm going to chill. I'm going to hang out with girls. Forward to when she passed away and I fell into a deep depression. It wasn't until the pain, I couldn't take the pain anymore, that I wanted to see my doctor. And then he referred me to see a therapist for the first time again in like 10 years, right? And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to listen to what he has to say. So he said that when he did the test, he said that you have severe depression, clinical depression, and you've had this for a long time. And also I have PTSD because my mother left and I was a mess, but I didn't want to show that. So I was doing other things too to mask that. But that's what they said, Donovan, you're depressed, you have PTSD, you need the help you need. And it took me a long time to accept that and say, you know what, I'm going to get the help. And I'm still to this day trying to get the help. And I have a hard time saying that now because I faced a lot of rejection when I talked about that openly. But when you lose your mom, when you lose someone you love, I mean, you're going to feel a lot of pain.
Right.
And if your friends can't help you, you got to go to a professional sometimes. And I had to go to a professional to get the help I needed. And it took me years. I'm still working through that now.
And you said something so key about friends, because Nelly and I had that conversation about going to family and sometimes feeling rejected. And sometimes our friends are great spaces. They're there for us. They bring us food or lend us money or give us drives. But at the end of the day, there's a differentiation between friends and a professional,
Absolutely.
right? And that's a different type of support. Friends are great. Do you ever feel like, and guys in the chat, you're more than welcome to contribute to this part, but do you ever feel like when we're telling our friends something, it's overbearing for them? We're dumping everything on our friends and it's just too much for the friend to handle. You know what I mean?
I learned that this year more than ever before, because I was wondering how come so many friends became distant when I started talking about vulnerability and depression and the things I faced. And it is hard because some friends don't want to hear that. They don't know about that. So they reject that. So they become more distant, and that hurt me because that happened to me so many times. Like talking about depression, I lost a lot of friends. Talking about PTSD, I lost a lot of friends. Things I have faced with mental health, because I opened up so much, I lost a lot. And that hurt me. And that still hurts me to this day, but I've learned how to cope with it. But you will lose friends when you open up about your mental health issues. It could be anxiety, depression, whatever you have. You will lose some friends. You're not going to keep every friend. And if you do, wow.
Then you're good. That's bonus. Like if you, then you're good. We, you know, and Kwan is saying, and I totally agree, saying you feel like a burden, you feel worthless. No one wants to hear your problems. Like you lose a lot of friends when you open up. So that's not to discourage people from opening up to the friends. Just be mindful that not everyone is equipped for it. And, you know, I had to learn that too, Donovan, that, you know, you feel like, oh, I told them and they're not good friends. They're not there for me. I had to learn that's not always the case. They're not equipped for it. You understand? So it wasn't fair for me when I was going through my anxiety to dump because they're not maybe in the right space for it all the time, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you don't have the knowledge about something, it's going to be hard to talk about it, to help someone. If you don't understand something, you might pull away from it, right? Some friends are going to want to learn more. So they're going to listen to you to learn what you're going through, right? And I have one or two friends like that, one or two.
Right.
And even sometimes they feel like they're pulling away, but they're still trying to learn. So that's what's happened to me many times. I want to thank you for saying that, actually, because that makes me feel better, because sometimes I feel friggin' broken because of that.
That's why I just love calling you, you know, because like Donovan will get it, you know, two depressed people on the phone, you know, because we get it, right? You know, and sometimes we can even take it a step further. And I'm seeing Eugene's talking about living with PTSD, and Eugene, I know that's not easy as well. You know, sometimes there's a flip side to that, and that's when two people are in a space of pain. And that could be maybe another topic for another day, but sometimes we have to realize that's not the healthiest option either. Yeah. For two people in pain to always trying to be self-medicating each other, right?
I've been through that once before. A friend was struggling with he was just struggling with depression. I'm struggling with depression. We're venting to one another back and forth, but we're not really helping each other. We're not encouraging each other to go and get the help. We're not, you know, teaching each other different skills to cope with it. We're just saying, let's vent. This is how I'm feeling, right? So it's like back and forth. Yeah, but we're just on the same level, hitting each other back and forth.
And then you're exhausted after, you know what I mean? And like Kwan's saying this really amazing word here, Kwan, that should be, it's saying trauma bonding. That's
trauma bonding. Wow.
Wow. That should be like a hashtag, trauma bonding. Are we trauma bonding right now? You know, and then maybe, yes, maybe we're doing that. Okay. We need to maybe, hey, I think we're trauma bonding. Let's flip the script a bit and talk about something a little more positive. I see Craig is saying a lot of people lack the emotional intelligence needed to deal with someone else's issues. It's not their fault. They just don't know how to help. And Craig, I completely, and Donovan, I'm sure we agree with that. And that's exactly why we have counselors like Shane who are equipped to do that. Shane says two people in pain transfer and counter transference, trauma bonding. Oh yes, that is such a word. And then taking it to a professional, compare it to family, life partner, and friends. Speaking to a professional is to deal and heal. Ooh, deal and heal. I'm liking that. without losing our pride. So well said. What I really like about what this is doing is, even in your pain with the loss of your mother, we're talking about it, but we're not trauma bonding. I think this is a healthy way, the way we're doing it in this space. And that's what this program is all about, is talking about it and then just bring it back to what is the solution, right?
Absolutely.
And if you could, before we part ways, if you could let me know through this Christmas season, what is, and if there's none, it's okay. But what was the best part about your Christmas holiday?
My son laying on my shoulders when we were watching TV, that gave me hope. Yeah.
And you give us hope, Donovan.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, my son is just there and he smiles, he laughs, he says, I love you, Dad. Yeah.
And we love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
I love you so much. I love you so much.
We have my guest, Ricky, all the way from Florida. He's going to share about some of the mistakes and pain. He's really transparent. Let's listen to his perspective from a Black man of some of the adversity he's faced.
What the excuses that men do make when it comes to being a father, especially when circumstances may arise. Whereas, I'm gonna give you a prime example. Myself, my children's mother and I couldn't get along. So we had an argument that led to an altercation. I got arrested, and then a peace bond arrived. So now I'm not able to come 200 feet of the building.
So let me just stay there for a second. So altercation with your child's mother, and now there's that restriction there, right?
The restriction there now, right?
Okay.
And with that restriction, I had a peace bond, so I couldn't go near the building. To add to that, my son was a newborn, so that was the reason why I was going there. Because my daughter, I was schooling her at home during that time, so she had her boyfriend. I didn't really care about that. That's not my concern. My concern was just the two people that I had in the house that had my blood. So when that restraining order came into play, so now I had to find a way to still keep that connection with my kids by sending someone to pick them up, because I couldn't go because I want to get arrested again. And that's stuff I had to do for like a whole year, where I could have said, you know what, if you don't want me to see my kids, forget it. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? But I didn't do that. I didn't succumb to what she wanted. What I wanted was for my kids to know who their daddy was. And then that was it. Because I grew up with a mother and father. They married for 49 years before my mother's life passed on. And I seen the relationship my mother and my father had. And that's what I wanted for myself. But since I couldn't have that for myself, I wanted that for my kids. You know what I mean? So with that said, I tried to be the hammer and keep hitting the nail. Just like that, on the head, every day. I always tell my kids I love them, so that way they know that if something happened to me, nobody could tell them that, oh, your dad loved you. Oh, I know he loved me because he told me that every time he talked to me. And then that's what we as parents gotta do. We gotta let our kids know, hey, listen, I love you. I just kissed my son on the cheek till he was 21 in front of all his friends. Because that's my son. That's my daughter. You know what I mean? So there's no excuses for anything that a man can put in front of us that we can't overcome.
Do you feel like your child's mother was purposely trying to make it difficult for you to see your kids?
She was, because you know what? She was bitter. She was bitter. And I get it. We're young, vindictive, spiteful, all those things that lead us to stray away from the manly duties that we're supposed to live up to.
Do you think it's common that, we're talking about Black right now, that Black women do that? in your opinion?
You know what? Yes. Back then, that was the norm for them at the time. You know what I mean? Because they want to spite you. They want to do things to make it hard for you to have a connection with your kids, because they're trying to make the boyfriend become the daddy.
The new boyfriend.
The new boyfriend.
Right.
You know what I mean? So me, I wasn't having that. I mean, she had the boyfriend stand up as me in the church christening my son.
The boyfriend was in the church christening your son without you there.
Without me there. And she didn't want to give me the address to the church.
I remember that.
Yeah, so my cousin, who was the godfather, told me where the church was. When I got there and I saw the guy stand up as me, I wanted to just, right? And it so happened that, you know what? I lost my temper, I ain't gonna lie. And things got out of hand. And, you know, I was young and temperamental at the time. Because what's mine is mine's. And
the judgment-free zone, that's what you did back then. It was your, we don't condone it, but at that time you felt, did you feel emasculated? Is that how you felt?
Yeah, I feel like she was trying to take that from me. She was trying to take that from me. And it put a strain on mine and her relationship, because we were like oil and water. We were not going to mix it, no time. And people knew that. And you could see it in the relationship, because it became a tug of war with the kids. You know what I mean? So now what your mom says about me, you got to hear that. Meanwhile, I'm not saying nothing about her, because I don't really give two shits. You know what I mean? So, you know, mothers are, oh, your daddy's no good, that beat and all that shit. When really and truly, the kids see for themselves. You know what I mean?
Were you ever worried that the kids would believe her?
Nah, they just let her talk, because I'm working in the salon. I have my son with me. I have my daughter with me, right? And I kept them with me close. And I try to influence them, right? And they see me work and hustle, right? My daughter worked and hustle. My daughter worked everywhere I worked as a teenager. So that's the influence I had on her.
I remember that. Yeah.
And she's still working that hard right till this day.
She is.
And then my son, same thing. I took my son and I say, listen, I'm not working as hard as I used to, but your grandfather is working hard, and he's going to show you the way and how to become a man and work hard for what you need. And I sent them out there to go work with my dad, and my dad paid him. And then I paid him on top of that, because I was trying to influence him in that way.
Got it.
And now he works at UPS. He gets up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's at work. It's just the mentality that we got to implant in all these kids growing up.
Got it.
Nothing's fast and nothing's easy.
Nothing's fast and nothing's easy.
Now let's take a moment and listen to Dylan's story. Hasn't shared his story openly like this before. And when he did, it was really life-changing for him, for the audience, and for his healing.
Dylan, we were just talking about that graph about suicidal ideations from Black men. You and I have had so many conversations about that. Was there a time that you did that, something similar?
Wow, I'm really happy to be here. Can't believe I'm really opening up about my mental health. So, Cox, I want to say, man, thank you so much for just being a hero for all of us as you talk about your issue. And also, I just want to say, before I get into it, thanks to Shane Joseph for empowering me to be able to talk about that issue, because it takes a lot of courage for someone like me to be able to talk about something like this on live TV. Because right now, I understand now it's okay not to be okay. And absolutely. So growing up in the Caribbean, it's very difficult for me to talk about my mental health, especially being part of the church community and being a Black man, because people oftentimes, when they hear someone with mental health, you become like an obsolete in society. You become like a product that is no longer good. So for me, I was diagnosed when I was 21 with anxiety, depression. But I said to myself that I don't want to have no dealings, no association with something like that. So I pretend to not have those issues because I wanted to be accepted in the church as a good Christian. I wanted to be accepted within my community as a good man, as a man without any problems. And so I pretend that I didn't have it. I was walking around like everything was fine, but it was all a lie. Until after my separation, when I hit rock bottom. And when and it was too much for me to deal with because for so long I was living a lie. I was pretending that everything was okay with me because I wanted everyone to approve me, but I was dying on inside with my anxiety and with my depression. And I remember after I got separated, I was up in the night late drinking alcohol to numb myself. And one time I said to myself, you know what, F this, I'm tired of this bullshit. I don't want to live anymore because of the pressure and because of the expectation that I felt like everyone else have for me. And I wanted on the highway, just run my car in the back of a vehicle because I didn't want to do this shit anymore. I didn't want to live anymore. I was tired of this whole thing. And so I know exactly how it feels, but I just want to say to us as Black men, it's okay to reach out to get help. And that's why this brother Shane Joseph, man, you are one of my heroes because I didn't want to do this anymore. I had enough. It was too hard for me. But right now, as a Black man, we are not alone, right? Cox, I feel I'm not alone just by hearing your story. I feel I'm not alone because we as Black men, we shouldn't be afraid to admit that we are not okay, right? But also it's okay to also get help. And that's something that I realize. And I'm grateful that I've talked to this brother and this brother empowered me. And he told me the importance of having counseling. And you know what, man? I'm even going to counseling even right now all the time because you know what? I understand that I have mental health issues, right? And it's okay not to be okay, but it's also okay to get help. And we all will overcome that issue. So men, as you listen to me and listen to my story, those of you who might be at home, if you have that issue, it's okay to confront your issue. It's okay to admit that you have an issue and it's okay to get help.
Thank you so much. And it's okay for you to share what you just shared. You know, I'm just so proud of you for sharing that story. I'm proud of you for getting help. I'm proud of you for coming every month to Black Men Speak Up by hearing stories and sharing your story. So Dylan, thank you. And I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at Black Men Speak Up. And as you may or may not know, we always finish the session with an affirmation from my book, Shame Over. This book was written especially for men and gives tips of how to deal, cope, and acknowledge mental distress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick an affirmation from this book. Thank you in advance for everyone who has purchased it. What we're going to do, I'll pick it from number 42. And it says, I have the courage to be vulnerable. Asking for help makes me stronger. I'll repeat that for you. I have the courage to be vulnerable. Asking for help makes me stronger. So that is it for Black Men Speak Up. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye.